As Britain finally sees an inquiry into the rape gangs that have plagued our towns and cities up and down the country for so long, I just want to say one thing. God bless Rupert Lowe.
I looked at the broken promises from politicians, and I thought that something had to finally be done.
May 2017.
He shot a man dead, but not the man. Everyone is running.
A rogue MP taking it upon himself to seek justice for the victims of these racially motivated child rape gangs. I'll have a bit of that, please.
I wanted action, not words.
You would have thought it was an open goal for Labour to initiate a national inquiry into these rape gangs. The groundswell from the public was immense. Keir Starmer initially obfuscated attempts to garner support for a national inquiry into the rape gangs, using his tried and tested method of invoking the far right.
I wasn't calling them far right.
He said that those in favour of a national inquiry were jumping on the far right bandwagon.
Calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right. Far right. Far right. Far right.
Then in June 2025, Starmer changed his mind. All of a sudden, it wasn't jumping on the far right bandwagon, and it was a good idea to have a national inquiry.
I wasn't calling them far right.
However, shortly after this was initiated, the inquiry's Victims and Liaison panel convened. Several members resigned, claiming that it was feeling less about truth and more about a cover-up. That's a quote. There were tight restrictions over what survivors could say, or who they could talk to, and there was a widening remit to include victims of broader sexual abuse, which they claimed was going to water down what the inquiry was actually meant to do in the first place. Remember, we're focusing on predominantly Muslim, racially motivated rape gangs. Thousands and thousands of victims. One anonymous survivor was quoted as saying, "The process felt scripted and predetermined," and she questioned whether survivors' voices were being used to legitimise decisions that had already been made. Maggie Oliver, the former detective, called the inquiry the latest in a long line of cover-ups, linking it to ongoing government mishandling.
I'm here to say this morning, that incredibly, that cover-up is now being committed by the very committee, as it were, that's been set up to investigate it.
So this is the latest in a long line of cover-ups. It's why I resigned from the police.
So with these fundamental issues, like not having appointed a chair of the inquiry, turmoil with survivor resignations from the liaison panel, and a general feeling that the inquiry was not going to be carried out, honestly, in good faith, to actually get to the truth of what happened, thank God Rupert Lowe has stepped up, and he's got the balls to use every power that he has as an MP to make an inquiry happen.
Private prosecutions are our ultimate aim. Justice is our ultimate aim.
So we're currently on day 2 of the inquiry at the time of making this video. And one thing that's obvious to anyone who's been following any of the testimonies or news reports on the rape gang so far is that it's very difficult to listen to these absolutely grotesque, abhorrent things that have happened, but not just by the perpetrators, also by the institutions that are supposed to be protecting society and these girls. In Marlon West's testimony, a father of one of the victims, he testified that he located the property where his daughter was being abused, which happened to be very near a police station. He absolutely begged the police to intervene. One force refused jurisdiction. "Not a problem, mate." Another force just refused to attend, eventually sending him a text that said the girl was safe and with her friend, while she was with the abusers, the people who essentially groomed and kidnapped and raped her. In the same testimony, unbelievably, he went on to say that social services actually contacted him to tell him to stop reporting his daughter missing because it was screwing up their figures.
They told me to stop reporting my daughter missing. She's 14 still, because it's screwing up their figures. I argued and shouted at me, "Stop reporting your daughter missing.
Because the figures would have been screwed up.
Basically, yeah. Yeah.
These are the institutions that are supposed to be protecting us. This girl was 14 years old. Here's part of Marlon West's testimony.
Eventually, I found this property. 4 doors down from this terrace house is a police station. I found the property, seen her in the property, tried getting into the property. Then I went to a police station, which is Derbyshire Police, and said, my daughter, 14-year-old, is in there. Can you get her out of the property for me? Where do you live, sir? I live in Tameside. Sorry, we can't get involved. She's not a Derbyshire resident. I was ringing the police every night saying, I'm at this property now. This is Tameside Police. Somebody will be there in 10 minutes. So this will be, let's say, approximately 11 o'clock at night. I was still sat there in the middle of the winter at 4 a.m. and the police didn't attend. This went on numerous times. Eventually, 2 officers texted me and said, your daughter is safe. She's with her friend. So the police left her there with the groom.
To quote Christopher Hitchens, see how far the termites have spread and how long and well they have dined. Because these institutions are rotten, from the top to the bottom, from the inside out. However difficult it is to hear these abhorrent acts, we must not turn our attention away until anything that looks like justice that we could possibly have has been served on those responsible. Both the perpetrators and the facilitators. One thing to understand about Rupert Lowe's inquiry is that it is not a statutory inquiry. There can be no direct prosecution as a result of this inquiry, but there can be private prosecutions brought on the evidence submitted. Ultimately, this raises massive amounts of awareness. It's an incredible PR win for Rupert Lowe and people who support him, and it's a massive PR blow to Labour, who failed to organise a national statutory inquiry. And don't forget, this is a publicly funded inquiry, funded by donations from people like me and you watching this now. We have made this happen because we're desperate to try and have a positive impact where our institutions and elected officials have let us down. Whatever happens as a result of this independent inquiry, it's brought massive attention to the issue. Especially after the news cycle has kind of died down after the initial mania. Which brings me back to the point of this channel. We've been desensitized to the most abhorrent of things happening in Britain on a weekly basis. Things that would have dominated the news cycle for a long time are now shrugged off as almost like a daily occurrence that we're all used to. We do not have to live like this. And by documenting all of these crazy stories in a repository that's easy to search and highlight the absolute fuckery that we've been dealing with for a long time in this country, hopefully we won't forget them so easily. You've been watching This Week in Britain. I'm Matt Jackson. Thanks for watching. See you next week.